Senior Bowl practices continuing on Thursday ahead of the game on Saturday. Players trying to prove themselves to NFL scouts. And the premier college football all-star game will take place on Saturday, once again in Mobile, Alabama. And joining us now from Mobile, Alabama, are CBS Sports NFL draft analyst JP Acosta and Ryan Wilson. And Ryan, let's start with the most important position on the field, I should say, quarterback. Which QB at practice on Thursday helped himself the most?
Hey, Chris, good to see you. Yeah, I'm going to go with Taylor Green out of Arkansas. And JP, you and I have talked about this on the podcast the last 2 days. Quarterbacks haven't exactly set it on fire this week, but Taylor Green, I think, has done some really good things. He's 6'6". He's probably going to run in the 4.5s when he gets a chance to run a straight line at the combine. We've seen that athletic ability show up at Arkansas. The issues with Taylor, and I talked about him with this on Monday, is the careless turnovers. And if he can minimize that, the silly fumbles he had at Arkansas, some of the forced interceptions, I think he can make a real case for himself to be a day two type prospect. We had Sawyer Robertson here. We have Garrett Nussmeier. But I think of all the quarterbacks, Cole Payton and Diego Pavia as well, I think Taylor Green gives you the most upside, JP, and also has probably flashed the most the times he's had that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think with Green, it's all about the tools. Like you said, he's tall, long. He has a rocket for an arm. I think he has the longest pass of the week, the big pass to Malachi Fields yesterday. But I think the biggest thing for him is just ironing out the mechanics. And like you said, some of the careless turnovers, that stuff is going to happen. But when you think about a guy that's transferred from Boise State, he transferred up to Arkansas, and I think there's so much more that can be tapped into athletically and mechanically for him. So I'm really excited. I'm really glad that he had the best week of any quarterback.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep our eyes on him as we get nearer to the NFL draft. Now, Ryan, how about the tight ends? You know, we had some great tight ends last season, right? When we talk about Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, the list goes on and on. Who are two tight ends from this senior practice, right? Senior Bowl that you're really high on?
Yeah, you know, JP, we haven't spent a lot of time talking tight ends this week, and there are a ton of guys here that had an opportunity to step forward. And I think today we saw a little glimpse of that. Matthew Hibner at SMU had a big catch down the seam from Sawyer Robertson. Sawyer finally let one sling, and that was fun to see towards the end of their practices earlier this afternoon. Then Tanner Koziel out of Houston had another big catch in the corner of the end zone from North Dakota State's Cole Payton. And those the move tight ends now, the way the game has evolved, has been so fun to watch. I was talking to Justin Jolie, the NC State tight end, this morning, and I think I told you one of the guys he goes back and watches Jeremy Shockey when these guys were in line, and now they move these guys everywhere, and that versatility is what makes them so exciting offensively. So I was glad to see them step up a little bit. We just saw Alabama's Josh Quay was making a nice catch as well.
Yeah, and I think with Koziel, he's such a fascinating prospect, transfer from Wisconsin to Houston. And at 6'7", he's going to be an instant red zone, low red area, and in close quarters, like coverage. I think he's going to be a guy that you want to just get the ball in his area code and you can make impact there. But I think this tight end class, they have a lot of guys that are a lot more move prospects. Like you said, not exactly the strongest inline blockers. Yeah. We have a couple guys like that.
Jackson Hawes, for example.
Yeah, Jackson Hawes, for example, last year was a monster blocker, did that for the Bills this year. I think this year maybe the best guy at the Senior Bowl right now is Will Merritt from Ohio State. Yep. But we have a lot of guys who are great movers with the ball in their hands. So it's good to see those guys sort of stand out, especially as the quarterback play has been a little up and down this week.
Kindly put, yes.
All right, so the QB play has been a little up and down. Not totally surprised by that when you think about who the QBs are at the Senior Bowl. Now, what about on the defensive side, JP? Who are some players that have really stood out to you from day three?
This has been my favorite part of watching the Senior Bowl. It's the defensive class. It's the defensive line. And we're starting with Texas Tech defensive tackle Lee Hunter. He is a massive individual. When you go down and look at him, it's just like he's built like an NFL nose tackle. He's got long arms. He's big and wide, 6'4", 330. But he actually has some surprising quickness. And I think he showed that off in the run and passing game today. He cratered a lot of team runs. And you're thinking about, Ryan, you're thinking about a guy like Lee Hunter right now. Like he's playing himself into potentially the back end of round one.
That's right. You know, it's funny. We've talked a lot about this defensive line class being light, not physically, but in terms of depth. And we had to reevaluate after this week.
Yeah, we had to reevaluate a lot. I think another guy that's really stood out at linebacker has been Bryce Betcher from Oregon, former baseball player, actually drafted by the MLB to go play baseball. from Oregon. He is such a quick diagnoser in the run game. I think among all the linebackers that have played this week, I think Betcher's been a little bit underrated because he's on the same team as Kyle Lewis and Jacob Rodriguez, but he's really stood out. And then I think a guy that really helped himself out is Derek Moore, Michigan edge. He plays with power. He's a physical guy on the edge. He's going to do one thing. He's going to try and run through your face. Shout out to Marshawn Lynch. And I think that ability to win in the run and passing game is going to get him on a roster one, and he's going to play a lot because he wins with that power.
All right. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna add real quick, Chris. Kyle Lewis is one of the defenders that has stood out this week. I talked to him on Monday, and he forewarned me that he was going to make some plays this week. And while he's 220, can come downhill, and he's not afraid to hit you, he can play coverage, and we've seen him do that each and every day. Had a interception or a strip sack today? I think it was a strip sack.
Yeah.
Of who was it?
I think it was Pavia.
It was exactly
Pavia.
So he is flashed each and every day, and this is a guy that was probably a early day 3 guy coming in, Chris. He's going to have a serious conversation, teams about making him a top 100 guy with what he's done this week, and also based on what he put on tape at Pitt this year. So that was my defensive guy that I wanted to sneak in there and give him a shout out, given how well he did over these last 3 practices.
And that's the beauty of the Senior Bowl, right? These practices, the game where you may be ranked at one place coming in, but after you can shoot up or dive down the draft board. So really interested to see how all these players shake out for the NFL draft and, of course, the Senior Bowl. First, Ryan Wilson, JP Acosta, always appreciate the time, and stay warm. And for more draft content you want to check out with the First Pick podcast, Ryan and JP are recapping everything you need to know from the Senior Bowl and getting you set for the NFL draft with the First Pick. Download and follow right now.